go. Okay. So on your way up to Deer Isle, I always stop here. It's right by Yarmouth, right before Freeport, right off of 295. A great place for lobster rolls or shrimp rolls if you don't like lobster rolls. Another thing we associate with Maine are eiders. Many people might have some pillows with their feathers, but this is something easy to see in Maine. Let's see if this is going to work. And also puffins. It's jumping a little. Out of Deer Isle, you can catch a boat to one of the puffin sanctuaries. It leaves on weekends only. Another place to see puffins is out of Cutler, Maine, in the very north. Bold Coast Tours. You have to book way in advance for that. Okay, we seem to be a little slower for this. There we go. This is Acadia National Park. I'm going to back up a little. It seemed to jump on me. Okay. Okay, this is Acadia National Park. I put this in. This is Sand Beach. It's one of the few beaches, and there's good butterflies up here. One of my favorite things with butterflies is hilltopping. So you have Cadillac Mountain is the highest mountain, and then you have the great heath there that that they close the trails into it. But if you know where it is, it's by Wonderland. There's bog copper in there and a lot of other butterflies. Just be careful where you walk if you go in there. I saw somebody go down to their hip in the bog. A great place to eat in Bar Harbor. I recommend this as a stop for anybody who goes up there. You might want to take a quick screenshot of this. It's great prices and great breakfasts there. You could drive up to Cadillac Mountain. Last year was the first time you had to make reservations to drive up there. So many people are loving the park now. And you'll get many different common hilltoppers up there. That was a black swallowtail and a morning cloak underside, which wasn't taken there, and above side. Red admirals you may see up there. I had this on top. This is a striped hair streak. You could tell the stripe by the little cap on top of the blue, and it's more striping than our other Citarum hair streaks. One thing you want to make sure when you're up there is it's not too windy or foggy. It'd be hard to find a butterfly in this type of weather. It was great. It was about 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. This is, you pass this on the way into Deer Isle. There's blueberry barrens all over the place. This is a public one that you can go and pick blueberries. It's kind of between Blue Hill and Deer Isle. One warning, when you're up to Maine, there's an introduced caterpillar. It was introduced in the late 1800s into Nova Scotia, a brown-tailed moth caterpillar. And they had an outbreak the last year in Deer Isle. And they can cause permanent lung damage, the hairs. People had to stop hanging their clothes out on the sheets because the hairs would get stuck on the clothes, and they'd bring them back in and end up getting rashes or worse. This is a sample of the adult brown-tailed moths all over. There was over, I counted in this photo, over 180. And so some people will leave their lights on just to attract them, and then they'll kill them to try to reduce the population. And I saw only 2 other species out of these 180 something. And this is what we think of in Deer Isle. The lobster fishery, it's the largest lobster fishery in the East Coast. They ship more lobsters out of here than anywhere else in Maine. It's great for birds. Our neotropic migrants with a pine forest. When I went up there this spring in June, the Parula warblers were singing, and even in the town there were singing Parula warblers. You'll also get northern finches, a purple finch breed there. Crossbills are eruptive. We had a flock there in June. People have feeders. It's always good to check bird feeders, and you might find something else instead. One of the things that makes Deer Isle so great is that I didn't see one lawn care company, and a lot of people don't mow their whole lawns. They'll have a little space around the house, but they leave a lot of it to grow up in the fields, and they'll mow it only once or twice a year. Some of you may know Harry Zerlin. That's Harry right there. We've been going up and doing an insect study at somebody's property, and there's a lot of land trust properties there. This is one of them, Scott's Landing, a great place to look for butterflies. And it's about three weeks behind us in butterfly time. So if you get something down in Jersey, you can go up there and get it again 3 weeks later. There's a lot of bogs there. This is Ames Pond. From me going here, I met the owner, and then I started doing a survey on her property. And this is looking at the house up on the hill. You have a lot of great plants. I love bogs, pitcher plants, and sun dragon's head or calypso orchid, a spatula leaf, sundew, and round leaf, which I think they named them in reverse. It should have been named the other way. This looks more like a spatula to me. One of the best things at the bogs is cranberries. And this is what attracts, one of the things that attracts me to the bog, to get the bog copper. So this is out in June up there, is towards the end of June when you could see them. And really good numbers. And in early June, you have, in the dogwood family, have bunchberries, and they'll just carpet the forest in spots. And then you have pink lady slippers in the forest. And one of the things that amazes was a flat top aster. Everywhere we went, we found flat top aster. And it's a host plant for Harris's checker spot. So these are an early instar of the caterpillars. And they'll overwinter, they'll drop down at that side, and then they come out and this in the next year and finish eating, and then pupate. And we found them every place we went. We found Harris's checker spot. In Westchester County, New York, we have one population left. I don't know any populations up in the next county up. I know they're up in the Catskills. I don't know if you have any populations in Jersey. And this is underside breeding. And here's somebody trying to crowd in on a match pair. And then blueberries, there's some areas they still burn for blueberries. So you have Great Barons, and you get the silver bordered fritillary. Here we go. And I believe this is a male and a female. And then also with the blueberries, you get brown elfins. And this one was taken in mid-June, but I believe they're out earlier for the most part. I didn't have high numbers of elfins when I was up there, and we haven't done a survey in May yet. So if anybody goes up, let me know. And then you have a lot of alder around with woolly aphids, and here are some ants attending them that these didn't look like carpenter ants to me, which I see tend them down in New York. Another type of ant tending them. And the harvester feed on the woolly aphids, one of our carnivorous butterflies. And we found a few caterpillars up there too. I just couldn't get a photo. This is in late June. The irises are blooming, and we had a plethora of skippers around. I just didn't chase them a lot. But with the other grasses here, you get a common wood nymph, and up there they also have a pale form. It looks like a different butterfly to me. And then you have eyed brown, were very common up there. And this is above, where this jagged line is one of the ways to key them out. Little wood satyrs are common up there. And common wood nymphs. They also have tricolor bumblebees, and that may be a mason wasp. I'm not sure, but the wood nymphs were easily my most common butterfly in June and again in later August. And when you get some fresher ones, they're really beautiful and variable. Look at the markings on the hindwing here compared to the next one. And so one of those earlier ones was probably, and here's a mated pair too. And it seems to me that the female's always on top, because the female is always a fresh one, and the male is kind of dragged behind, a little battered. I don't know why. For some reason, my computer is acting slow.
Do you maybe have a few windows open, Charlie, outside of the PowerPoint?
Here we go. Just the to get on. Yeah, the violets. You get a lot of. You get the fritillaries up there. This is a great spangled. We have them up there, but to make sure I had a great spangled shot, I took one from New York because I don't get the other butterflies there. Harry Zerlin and I argued a bit. We felt this was an Atlantis with a black edging. The markings aren't completely identical to some of the photos we've looked at. Again, an Atlantis with a black edging. And underside. And this is a spreading dog bane that I was feeding on.
Sure thing.
And
Yeah.
And the blue eyes make it Atlantis.
okay, thank you. And Aphrodite right here. And again. And then silver bordered fritillaries were very common. There's a lot of wet areas there right on the side of the road. We'd find them. And we'd stop at a place, we'd see butterflies, we'd stop, would walk on. Somebody would come by and said, can I help you? And we said, we're looking at butterflies, and oh, make yourself at home. And, you know, it'd be the property owner, and they're very friendly. I've been invited onto a number of estates up there now. Again, silver border underside. And on the spreading dog bane, a banded hair streak. That was on one of my later trips in July. The number of butterflies, it's so refreshing because we had a pretty slow year down in Westchester County, and there were just butterflies all over. And there's an article coming out in the NABA magazine on reasons for this. And American copper, common branded skipper. This is more in August that we get them. I think there's an earlier brood that we had a look at one year, but was never able to photograph it. There's open and beat up worn one. I'm not too familiar if male and female are that different. And then silvery blues are pretty much all over there in June. I'm not sure about the broods on them. And there's above shot. And the best thing about it was the numbers of species. And then they have both pearl crescents and northern crescents. I know the antenna clubs is one of the way to tell them, but the female, I think, both has orange, but only the male of the northern crescents has orange. And I'm not gonna hazard. I think this last one is this one with the orange clubs is a male northern. And then I'm spacing on the name right now.
Arctic skipper.
Arctic, thank you. Yeah, Arctic skippers were common there in June. You know, they're an earlier butterfly for us. But you can go up there in mid-June. The bugs weren't bad either. Here's another Arctic skipper. Viceroys. We only had white admiral form of the complex, red spotted purple admiral. Canada, tiger swallowtail, and the ID for them, from what I read, is really you have to have an underside, and I don't have an underside. And this one is it's from New York by me. This is a tiger swallowtail, but you can't go by the top side. And then peck skippers up there, and hundreds of European skippers in the right fields. Red shoulder longhorn beetle. There's goldenrod everywhere. There's the flat top aster everywhere, and we get all sorts of insects feeding on them or nectaring. We found this is a clay bank, a tiger beetle. We actually have them down by the Hudson River in Cold Springs, and this is the reddish form and a beautiful bug. And this is the greener form. It's the same species of tiger beetle. Crab spiders. Whoops, that jumped on me. So we had, when we were up there, we had a blue flag iris, and it seemed like every other one had a crab spider, and they're holding a butterfly or another insect. And I believe that's a hobomorph. And then this is another beetle we had up there. I did have the name down, but let's see. Say's blister beetle. Sorry about that. And when I was with Harry, he was very excited to find those. And then a type of calligraphy beetle, just really showy. They're up on the alders. And that's earlier in June. And a type of ichneumon wasp. And with this one, they may use the antenna to grab things, because look here, you have these little hairs or spikes to look like they're to hold on to something. But a beautiful little fly or wasp. And this is an immature white-faced. I'm not sure which one, because it's not in dull colors yet. A lot of dragonflies up there. And anybody know what this is? It's a moth. It's a raspberry clearwing. This was the first time Harry had ever seen this. And he was the one who picked it out too. Really great looking bug. You have a lot of forest understory, red elves. I found a lot of snakes. I tend to look for them. Garter snakes. Smooth green snake. I believe it's smooth. This is a decay snake or a brown snake. And they don't get that big, probably as big as the next one is full size, the ringneck snake. And found quite a few of these. And their defense, that's about as big as they get. That's my hand in the photo. And they have this musk. So if you're picking up snakes, you definitely want to have wipes. Otherwise, your hands are going to stink the rest of the day.
Did you find them in the open or under things?
Under things, a lot of trash. Not typical trash. It's more like a house that fell down and there was old pots and boards and just picking up the boards. I probably found about 8 of the ringnecks and the 1 decays. And then beaver, they're right at Ames Pond. And sometimes you got to be quicker with your shot. So I'm not a great photographer, and this is the next one is proof of it. I saw this this mink coming in the direction, and I ran down the road and went to the back of this house that I knew the owner, and I set up for this shot. And as soon as I picked up my camera, I saw the movement and dove into the water. So I was just a fraction of a second too late, you know, and I got it swimming away, but I didn't get that that National Geographic shot that I thought I might get. And monarch butterflies are up there too, of course. And this is a break if you have any questions now. Is that too much, or we're still good?
You're still good to go.
Charlie, is this all in June?
Still good.
Most of it's in June. A few of the shots are from later August. The common ringlets were common both times. The American coppers were more common later. The monarchs were August. The red admirals, the branded skippers, they were August. In June, you're getting the silvery blues and the Harris's checker spots. The skippers, they were in later June. You know, we had long dashes and Havamark all like the last week of June. Yeah, there's still a lot for us to discover up there. I think we're planning a May trip next year to try to see if we can get some other stuff, maybe mustard white or something. I saw a mustard white once up on Acadia. So we also did a moth study on the Ames farm, which is 31 acres. And they have the beaver pond right there and the bog. And so this was one of our setups. I was setting up at 3 different places with lights. And a Cecropia moth at Ames Farm. And this is the owner of Ames Farms, Carol Richards, who wants species identified. She'd like the state to be interested in protecting her property. And there's a close-up of a Cecropia. I just think it's a really great look of one. And we saw quite a few. And then with the moths, certain species you can pose. And these are St. Lawrence's tiger moths. They're one of the largest tiger moths. The other one is, I believe, the great, which we haven't gotten on Deer Isle, but we found at a gas station one time. And these are blinded sphinx below. You know, they're great to get kids excited with wildlife and insects. I'll do programs where I'll collect them the morning of my program, and I'll put them in a cooler in the fridge, and then bring them out. And ones like this, they need to shiver to warm up, you know, in order to fly. So you hand them to a kid, and they're just delighted with the moth sitting on their hand and warming up before it flies away. Here's, I think this was an northern apple sphinx. Here's another shot. And Virginia tiger moth. And if you look on top here, they'll put out a liquid that is toxic to keep predators away from them. So they'll flash their bright colors, and this is a warning. Or if they try to eat them, I might not ever eat another one after taking a mouthful of that. This is a green arches. One of the things you'll notice up in Maine is a lot of the moths have green to match the trees. A lot of moss and green on the trees. So the moths, I've seen a difference with the colors versus New York to Maine with the amount of green on them, and you'll get different forms up there. This is I believe it's an Isabella tiger moth, and it's got much heavier markings than I'm used to in New York. Yeah, I've never seen this line all the way through on the ones I see down in New York. So that's a woolly bear caterpillar that we're familiar with. And this is a rose tip, a rose hook tip moth. This is a form that's more common in the north. I should have shown you the other form, but I didn't get it up there. I only got this form. And this is a modest sphinx, or it's also called a big popular sphinx. And I've never seen these down in New York. It's a really large sphinx moth. It's about close to 5 inches across, and beautiful underwings. And this is a modest percola, I believe. Some of these brown and white ones, I think or white and gray ones are designed to blend in with the birches. And there's more proof to that if this ever advances. There we go. This is an olive angle. So when you open this one up, it's got a lot of green on it. And unfortunately, I don't have an open shot of it. But it's much more striking when it's open, but that's the typical pose. And then this is a white underwing. They come out in late August, early September, and they I believe use poplar as or possibly cottonwood as a host plant, but it looks like they're meant to sit on birch trees. You know, this is another form, and you could just imagine how well that would blend into perched on a birch tree. And we had a number of these come into light. And this is I believe a unicorn prominent, and it's a twig mimic. So it's mimicking a dead twig. They'll perch like this. It looks great on a tree. Maybe it doesn't fool people as much on a rock. This is Deer Isle granite, which Deer Isle is famous for. And these are much greener than the ones I've seen in New York. They're fairly common down in New York by me. And this is a Comstock sallow. I've never seen this in New York, another green moth. The only time I've seen them up there is early in June. They just have a single brood, and we're probably late when we saw them in June. But that year was a very cold May, so it may have been why we saw them that year. You know, they're really affected at Deer Isle by the climate and weather. Here's the St. Lawrence tiger moth, one of the more beautiful moths that you'll see, and that's fairly large. It's about 2.5, 3 inches. And this is one of the two, but one is called a red bordered emerald, but there's one that's very similar, and I don't know the name of that. I'd have to ask Steve Walters to have him decide. And a false crocus geometer, and this is a possible because there's another one that mimics it or it mimics. Another beautiful moth up there, and they're fairly common. And it's cycling. Okay, I'm sorry, that's it. That's why.
Is
Good
anyone
things.
questions for Charlie? That was a great presentation.
Well, we've been going up there for about 4 years with missing the pandemic year. And I went up there a couple of times with Harry this year. And it's amazing how many butterflies we see up there and compared to New York. And there are invasives up there. You know, there's plenty of mugwort, bittersweet. They have Japanese knotweed. They have a new invasive there that's a like Mongolian jewelweed. It's beautiful, but it's spreading all around part of the island, and I don't think people care because it's so beautiful. It seems to prefer wet areas, so it may not be a big hazard to other things, but you have a lot of native grasses still, and people leave a large part of their property unmowed, and the local land trust has preserved, I think there's like 30 parcels that they've preserved. It'll be in the magazine article that Harry wrote and Jeff edited. But people are definitely aware of wildlife and interested when they ask what you're doing. You know, we stopped by this public beach parking lot and we're looking at stuff, and the woman came out from across the street, asked us what we were doing, because we had the cameras out, and Harry had a stick to shake things, and she offered her 50 acres to us to go and walk through her 50 acres and let her know what she has on her property.
Something to shake a stick at.
Charlie.
Yes.
Hi, it's Kathleen Spates. You just can't see my picture. I'm curious about the blueberries and the butterflies that you photographed on there, along with, I think, moths. So are the blueberries raised organically without any pesticides? Do you have any idea? And does that help attract a lot of the butterflies and the moths too?
There may be some larger commercial growers that may use some pesticides, but not on Deer Isle. There's no big commercial
Okay.
growers, but there's some
Okay.
barrens that they burn every year or two to keep the woody plants out and the flowers. On the photo coming in, that state property, it's open to the public to collect blueberries,
Okay.
and they don't spray that. I did stop at a barren on the way in one time, and there's a lot of Savannah sparrows breeding there, which surprised me. You know, so to me, that's telling me that they're not really spraying for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just wonder if that might attract, and that's wonderful, that attracts different species that you wouldn't normally see, because a lot of blueberry farmers, you know, they use, I hate to say it, but herbicides or pesticides because of different issues. They don't always grow them organically or naturally. They have to because they need to produce the blueberries. So that's why I think that's interesting. So, okay.
Yeah, you know, these are all low bush blueberries, so they're really under a foot off the ground.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they're not the traditional high blueberry bush that you'll see in southern Jersey.
Pardon?
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Bring some back.
You don't have to give it back.
But another thing, if you go to Deer Isle, they take up the sidewalks like at 7 o'clock at night. So if you want to eat out, you need to eat out early. And if you're going to shop, you better have all your groceries. They may close at 8 o'clock, but they may close at 7 o'clock. You have to. There's no staying up late in Deer Isle. You know, there's you have a better chance of finding a place open at 3 o'clock in the morning when the lobster fishermen are going out.
Yeah.
Than you do at 7:30 at night.
So where do you stay when you go there? Do you do a bed and breakfast? Do you do like
Well, they have a
camping,
number of-
RVing?
They have an RV campground by the small airport. You can fly there. There's a number of bed and breakfasts. I have made a number of friends up there. So they actually, Carol Richards, who owns the Ames farm, which has a really interesting history. One of the earlier owners, it was 3 brothers, and they had an ox team that they rented out to do road work and stuff like that into the 50s, and they didn't have electricity in their house until the late 40s, when the neighbor came in and put a wire in to show them what it was like. And then they strung wires all through the house so they could light up the whole inside of the house. They said it was pretty funny when they came back there, the story that was related.
I gotta wonder if they didn't have indoor plumbing either, but that's a whole other issue.
They didn't have it back until after that, I'm sure.
Sure. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie. The pictures were just beautiful, and so were the butterflies and moths. So thank you very much for sharing with us.
Yeah, I tend to, one of my problems is I tend to chase nature more than I look to photograph it. So it's more like how much I can see than concentrating on a photo. And I end up dumping a lot of photos or regretting that I didn't spend more time on one of my subjects. But we definitely made a lot of great discoveries up there. You know, a lot of beetles that, you know, it's great when you go out with a kid and you get them excited, but when you go out with somebody that's like your age and they still get excited like a kid, that's good too. And, going out with Harry, he's like a kid coming down and looking underneath the Christmas tree. Everything is new. He's jumping up and down. It's great.
Anybody else with questions?
No, thanks, Charlie. It's great.
Hey, Mike. Hey, good to see you.
It's good seeing you as well.
You said hi? I gotta say hi.
Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you, Joanna.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good now. I don't count 2020. 2020 didn't happen.
Now we can write it off.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It didn't
just write
happen
it
to-
off. I'm a year younger. And 2021, there was struggles, but we started getting things back in order, I think, and getting out more, everybody. I hope that's the case. And I hope this new variant will be a blip and correct quickly.
It better get over quick. We're supposed to go to Trinidad in February.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so you'll be doing a program.
Yeah, right.
No,
I'm not
no,
sure.
that's
I'm not
something
sure
right
I'm not sure whether Omicron's gonna let us.
Well, last thing I heard was they may even speed up their projections with it peaking. So there was talks of 1 to 2 months, and they may, somebody thinks it may be weeks that it'll correct.
Somebody should
Maybe
tell
push
that to
all
the
other
virus.
variants to the back burner.
Somebody should tell that to the virus.
I just hope you're right, Charlie. That would be great.
Well, it's just so many people I know that have it. I was cooking for a couple, my next door neighbors, and I don't think they were being overly cautious. They might have relaxed a little, but there's other people, like my brother-in-law down in Florida had a Christmas party, and it became a super spreader. But everybody was vaccinated, so it was pretty mild. That's what you hope. You hope that, I think the reason why we haven't gone into total lockdown is because they haven't filled up all the beds in the intensive care. That's when they start getting nervous.
Well, we'll just have to hope for the best and cross our fingers, but at least you gave us an hour just to think about other things, the beauty of nature, and kind of get our taste buds whetted for maybe some travel. Maine's one of our favorite locations. We have a daughter up there, went to the environmental college up in Unity, and you're right that so many people up there, they have a very different mindset than many people in our more suburban urban area with how they look at things and how they treat the land, and how they respect the land too. And there's still a lot of people up there that live off the grid. She was one of them for a long time. People that still don't have running water or electricity. They choose that lifestyle, and it's certainly refreshing to a degree.
Yeah, it's easy to fall in love with. There's this bed and breakfast there. It's called the Muffin House, and they make organic muffins there. And like she counts the berries she puts in and everything's got to be organic. And they make gluten-free. And I pointed out one time when I stopped there years ago, before Harry was up there, that a couple of moths they had by their light, and they got interested. They got a couple of books, and now we set up some sheets in their backyard, and they're taking photos to send to me, and they really got excited about it, and I probably met like 10 different property owners
Yeah.
that let me go on their property. And you know, like if you're respectful and stuff like that, and there's other spots I've found, you know, there's plenty of parks that you can go there. There's this one place, I think it's called Baxter Island. It's Nature Conservancy property, and it's a famous hike because the understory is all moss, and it's like a wonderland. All the rocks are covered with moss, and a friend of mine who has a house up there, Ralph Odell, he took me there years ago, and everything, even the trail was moss. And I went there for the first time in a number of years this past year, and it's almost been loved to death. Now there's a trail that's about 4 feet wide with no moss because so many people have found it and walking on it. But, you know, other than that trail, it's still an incredibly lush place. And there's a town outside called Blue Hill that they have a bigger store. They have a big organic a supermarket there, and they have some ancient American elms that they treated years ago. They're over a couple hundred years old, right on the main street. That just seeing them is worth the trip. What an American elm should look like. And
They have a big fair the third week of September pre-COVID. I don't know if they've had it since, but it's MOFGA. So it's like NOFA for New Jersey, North American. Everything's organic, and so that's something definitely worth checking out if you're supportive of that type of lifestyle. And that happens in Unity, little town of Unity, Maine, where the college is.
yeah, no, I don't know that one. I know there's a stellar sea eagle up around there right now, but you need a car to get up there. Mine just died. But Blue Hill is a great place to stay too, because it's halfway to Deer Isle or Acadia National Park. So you can kill two birds with one stone. It's like 45-minute drive to either place. And when I've been up there with Harry and we had bad weather, then we drove to Acadia, and he did shelling on the beach or the rocks. You know, he's an Energizer bunny. But
Any other questions this evening for Charlie?
Oh, good night.
good to see you. Take care. Happy New Year, Mike, Joanna.
Well, this was delightful. Thank you for taking us on this journey. We really appreciate it. If there are no more questions, or if no one has any other things to share to the group, then I guess we will end this January meeting, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody for our February meeting with Chris Sturm.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.